Hi all, so today we're going to be talking about A.S.P, the Advanced Specialization Project, or whatever the hell they named it. We're calling it A.S.P. So, A.S.P is available once you reach Battle Rank 100 on your character, and you can do it at any time once you get Battle Rank 100, assuming you pay up the 10,000 cert cost, or it's available for free if you have a membership. 10,000 certs is the natural hard cap, so just be aware that as soon as you hit 10,000 if you're going for A.S.P, you should grab it almost immediately, or else you're just wasting cert gain. So A.S.P, noteworthy, just gives you benefits. It opens up some new playstyle options, it gives you some weird loadout choices, and it lets you take discounts on vehicles. It's something that is definitely worth speccing into once you hit 100, although noteworthily, going to 120 for your first A.S.P at the very least. Like, before you activate A.S.P, if you get to 120, there's a unique title available. But if you just want to go to A.S.P, you can do it as soon as you hit 100. So, in total, there are 15 points available through A.S.P. Whenever you go into A.S.P, Prestige is what it really is, you'll get a point at levels 1, 25, 50, 75, and 100, meaning that you'll get 5 points per A.S.P, and you can do it 3 times for a maximum of 15 points, which will allow you to clear out pretty much the entire tree. But nonetheless, that's going to take a long time. So I'm going to basically give you what I think is worth going for from my own experiences, and well as giving you just some input. Now, what you take is largely up to you at the end of the day, what you play. Ultimately, each player has their own preferred playstyles and will spec into different things depending on what they want to do. But I can generally try and give some recommendations because these points are hard to come across. So we're just going to start with each tree and kind of go over what each point allows you to do, the benefits of taking it, the disadvantages of taking it, or why you wouldn't want to take it, and we'll work our way through. So starting off with the very first pick in Universal, Sidearm Primaries. This skill is pretty much useless. What it allows you to do is you can put a sidearm in your primary slot. It is not dual wielding. Do not be fooled. You just get you get a secondary in your primary slot, and you can have another secondary in your secondary slot, or whatever. Ultimately, this is useless. There's very few times where you actually want to pull out 2 sidearms or have 2 pistols basically at once, outside of a couple niche meme builds like Gunslinger build, Vampire build, well, both of them combined, really. And if you're really, really working on a pistol directive, which is the whole reason I took it. On the whole, though, you can skip it. This is... So, even for Stalker Cloak, this won't help you at all because you won't be allowed to use your primary slot anyway. It won't get you an extra pistol, don't be fooled. Universal Smoke Grenades. Pretty much useless. Smoke grenades are generally not worth running, and spending a whole point on these, unless you're going to do some divine trolling as like an infiltrator, there's no reason to ever take this pick. It should be one of your very last picks if you ever go for it. Same for Universal Decoy Grenades. They're useless. Don't even bother with them. They're junk. So, we're going to cover all the discounts here at once. Ultimately, all these depend on, do you not want to spend a perk somewhere else? And do you play vehicles a lot? So I went for the combat armor discount because I'm currently working on my lightning directive, and to a lesser extent my Chimera. Having cheaper tanks is very nice to have. But this is only a 20% discount. It will help you chain pull if you die a lot in vehicles, but on the whole it won't do a whole lot for you. It's a convenience pick, it doesn't really help you anywhere else. If you are going to take a discount, I recommend taking heavy air or combat armor, solely because they just cost the most nanites to begin with. You'll be getting a bigger effective discount than if you take, say, light ground. Sure, 25 nanite flashes are funny, but it doesn't really matter at all. The discounts are largely just, do you pull vehicles a lot? There's little reason to take them elsewise. Infiltrator. Both of these perks are pretty much fucking useless. Flash grenades on Infil are useless because what are you going to flash? You have a cloak. And sticky grenades, while they're funny, aren't effective. Unless you really, really want the sticky grenade or axiom, there's no reason to take this perk whatsoever. There's just no reason for it. Light Assault actually has one good pick here. We'll talk about concussion grenades. They're useless. Don't even bother. They're pointless on Light Assault, because you want to take impulse grenades there instead. Submachine Gun Secondary is decent. It does affect the Light Assault, though, in quite a few ways. So, obviously, you can take a submachine gun in your secondary slot. This is a lot stronger on certain factions. For example, on NC, where you have submachine guns like the Cyclone, the Tempest, the Blitz, the Gladius, this is very strong, because those weapons are all very, very good. On a faction like NSO, where all your submachine guns are shit, it's not as useful. It's nice because it effectively lets you bring a second close quarters weapon. Perhaps you bring a long range carbine, and then you bring a close quarters submachine gun. It does have its uses, especially if, say, you want the impulse grenades offered by the Punisher. You could have the Punisher in your secondary slot and use the impulse underbarrel to boost you around and get extra impulse nades. But you do have to consider the fact that you lose some of your panic potential. Obviously, submachine guns take a lot longer to draw than a regular sidearm. And so, if you run out of ammo on your primary weapon, and you try to switch to your secondary, because switching to your secondary is always faster than reloading, you'll probably get killed because of submachine gun equip time. You do lose that panic potential, and it's just something worth considering. I think it's a decent pick, and if you really, really like Light Assault, I think it's worth grabbing, don't get me wrong, but it is a playstyle shift, and you need to be aware of that. Medic has two fairly strong options here, and conk nades are once again completely useless, so we're not even going to talk about them. Scout Rifle Secondary is really, really good. There's not a lot of time where you'll need to panic pull out your pistol as a medic, so having access to a long-range Scout Rifle option is really, really good. Whether it's the Dokugen Battle Rifles, the Directive Scout Rifles, even stuff like the Vandal, this is a very, very strong pick here. I do recommend it if you play Medic. I think it's absolutely worth the time, and it's great. It lets you bring a close quarters assault rifle, and you can bring a good Scout Rifle in the secondary slot. It's really nice. Carbine access is a little more in the air. There's a couple really, really cringe builds where you say, notably Fuok on Connery does this a whole lot, where they have carbine access on their medics, and they bring the Bandit, which is one of the best carbines in the whole game. Which is very, very strong. But on the whole, assault rifles are some of the best weapons in the whole game. They're a great class, and largely a lot of carbines do not have traits that are worth taking an assault rifle over. Or rather, it's not worth taking a carbine over an assault rifle in a lot of situations. Still, it does have its uses. Perhaps you bring a close quarters carbine like, say, a GD7F, a Serpent, a Bandit. There is reason to pick it, I just wouldn't recommend it. I think it's a lower priority pick, but it's still quite decent, especially if you're a medic player. Engineer gets a whole lot of options, and a lot of these options are good, and a couple of these are useless. Shotgun Secondary is a lot like the submachine gun secondary for Light Assault. Very, very good if you know what you're doing, but you lose panic potential. Of course, having something like a Baron or an Auto Shotty in your secondary slot is great for close quarters, especially if you're bringing something like an Archer. But it does kneecap your secondary performance a lot, obviously. Light machine guns is so-so. For what you're doing with an engineer, a carbine is usually better. But having access to LMGs can be funny. I still wouldn't really recommend it, but it can be amusing. But I would say it's a low priority pick. Assault rifle, however, is really, really good on the engineer. It's just, assault rifles, as I've already stated, are some of the best weapons in the game. It's really, really nice. Obviously, if you like assault rifles, you'll be more inclined to pick it. If you don't like assault rifles, you don't need to pick it, but it is a very, very solid pick. EMP grenades are useless on the engineer, and AV grenades are decent if you're going to specialize into just killing vehicles. Obviously, perhaps you bring, say, like an Archer primary, tank mines, munitions pouch, or mine carrier, and you bring like an explosive QCX, and you bring anti-vehicle grenades, and you just fuck up vehicles. But on the whole, rep nades are usually better. For heavy is weird. Flash grenades are useless, and the reserve highlight is useless as well, which allows for you to take the heavy weapon secondary, which is very, very nice if you're willing to take the penalties that come with it. Obviously, having access to, say, a lasher in your back pocket, or a thumper in your back pocket, really, really nice utility that offers. But you lose the pistol panic you can't panic pistol much, and given that heavy weapons have terrible equip speed, and the fact that when you're doing a lot of combat as a heavy, you might need to pull that pistol out, it's a playstyle change that you'll need to be aware of, and it will probably get you killed quite a few times. It's also not as strong on TR or NC, in my opinion, because the jackhammer backup and the mini chain gun backup are not nearly as convenient, because your LMG already does a pretty good job killing things in your primary slot, and having a backup pistol is really nice. On Vonu, though, with the Lasher, which is just a great suppression tool, and actually having the Thumper as well on any faction, is a really nice tool to have. But on NC and TR, I wouldn't recommend it as much as I would on Vonu, unless you really, really want the Thumper. It's good if you need heavy weapon assist, though, obviously, because then you don't need to sacrifice a light machine gun for it. So, pick what you want. Obviously, consider your own playstyles. Do not take me as the word of God. This is just what I've kind of picked up on in my own experiences playing, what I've run as myself on A.S.P. Take take into factor what you want to do, what you like doing, and go from there. Do not let me choose your A.S.P perks. If you don't play Light Assault, I probably wouldn't take Submachine Gun Secondary. If you don't pull armor, I wouldn't recommend grabbing a discount, etc. A lot of it is context. Pick what you want for your situations, but these are just a rough opinion on what each of these do, what I believe is useful, what I believe is not as useful. Thank you all, and I will see you all again later. Bye.